Welcome. We now join Fred Kuhn and his guest.
Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to talk about you got your first job. Now you want to plan your second job in your career. Very important move strategically, economically, financially, all of those things. And our guest today is Tabitha Bemis, who is a career counselor at Susquehanna University in Pennsylvania. Tabitha, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You've been here before, and we talked about first-time job seekers. Now they've gotten that job that you've helped them get, and they come back in whatever time period and say, okay, I think I'm ready to move to the next thing. What's the best way to do this? And I know that from my own experience with clients that sometimes it's by chance that they find their next position. But what we recommend is that it should be a planned move. So let's talk about what are the things that are most important that job seekers are moving from their first to their second job should know.
So the first thing is going to be looking at this first professional role that you've had and identifying what are my core competencies, what things have I developed since I've been working in this role, and how does that benefit me when I am moving into a new role, and how do I articulate that value I've developed in a way that the reader will understand and appreciate. So really evaluating that first step that you've taken. It also helps to have an understanding of lateral and upward movement. So are you moving from one company to another company? Or are you hoping to advance? Do you want to move into more of a managerial role? Do you want to take on more responsibilities? And understanding what does the job description look like for my current role, and where do I have room to grow? Lastly, comes down to the salary and benefits negotiation. So now that you have some experience and you have evidence of the value you bring to a company or to an organization, how much room do you have to negotiate a salary, and how much room do you have to negotiate your benefits, and what things should you be thinking about in terms of what a benefit is?
Okay. Let's go back to the first point that you made about articulating your professional experience on the resume. One of the things that you and I have talked about before is the quantification of value. And the only way you can negotiate more in a package is for them to understand the value that they have. That value must exceed their expectations. That's the only negotiating room there is. So how do you have them approach developing that value proposition from their first job?
Right. So first thing is going to be, again, doing that self-evaluation and looking at what skills do I have, what core competencies do I have, and how do those fit in a competitive context. So when I'm looking at other individuals who would be applying for these jobs, what is competitive? What are the current trends in the industry? And what types of things am I doing that make me stand out?
Right.
And identifying those things. So understanding if I am working in higher education, that social media is a buzzword, right?
Yes.
And being able to market and advertise with social media. So if that's something I'm doing in my current role, how am I articulating the improvements I've made? What process improvement have I integrated in my role to help me do better and show that I have that value to another company or to my superiors? Absolutely.
And one of the ways to do that is to think about your quantification of whatever you've done. Everything can be quantified. And without a number or a percent improvement or moving from X to Y, there's very little way that people are actually going to read a lot of words. Numbers speak louder than words. And some tricks of the trade are put a decimal point on the number and it has subliminal value to it. So odd numbers are more valuable than even numbers. There's a lot of tricks and stuff here when you're doing this, but you have to have the basic number. So you have to, like you said, go back and evaluate and list all of the things that you accomplished. And then where were you when you took that first job? And how much have you improved the things you were asked to improve by what percentage or numbers, etc. And those go in the resume because that is the linchpin for your ability to negotiate a better package, extra vacation time, extra money, whatever else that is of interest to you.
Absolutely. Numbers oftentimes also do not have relevance unless you provide a baseline. So you have to provide that context for them. So
Yes.
Identifying what was the baseline and how much have I improved, and those numbers are a great way to do that.
The next point that you made was lateral and upward movement. How do you advise those folks who are looking to get their second job in their career? Not a second job, part-time job, but a second job move in their career. How do you advise them to analyze lateral and upward and what they're really trying to accomplish?
So I think it comes down to two things. The first is going to be, what are your life goals? What goals do you have in life? What is that 3, 5, and 10-year plan? So identifying, okay, I have a 3-year plan to be a manager and take on these roles. I have a 5-year plan to have advanced. And so, if you're trying to do that on a short timeline, then we need to think about moving upward quicker. It also could be considered the cultural background that you have and the company culture. If you are unhappy in your work and you're looking to move because you weren't crazy excited about going to work every day, then is it the work that you're doing or is it the people that you work with? So if it is the people that you work with that you're not happy about, then maybe a lateral move is better.
You're right. That's a cultural issue, because if the culture doesn't match your expectations or doesn't exceed your expectations, so you're happy about going to work every day, why would you work there? I mean, go find something else that meets your culture expectations.
Absolutely. So knowing what your plan is and knowing what your goals are can help you define, should I move laterally or should I move upwards? And can I define what I want to do in this role, and then look at what is the next step? What does the step up from the job that I'm currently doing look like? And what are those job descriptions? And what tasks and responsibilities will I be responsible for? Am I doing some of these things already? And if I am, then how much of a stretch is it to challenge myself and grow in that next role?
This goes back to the first podcast you and I did on first time seek, and it goes back to the research too, trying to understand the role that you want to move to. And are you prepared educationally, experientially, to move into that? And it is important to understand, don't beat your head against a wall if you're not qualified, really, or you don't present a value to the company. Don't waste their time or yours.
Right.
Get prepared. Go get the education
Definitely.
you need and get the experience to be able and quantify, so that you present a good package to a potential employer in this second role. And it's one that's planned, like you said. You go back and you think about what you really want to do. So you have some wiggle room. You mentioned a little bit of wiggle room in salary and benefits and negotiation. How do you try to get more? I know a lot of people I've talked to think that it's a one-way street, and it's not. Negotiation's a two-way street. Interviewing's a two-way street. So how do you prepare them for that?
Right, absolutely. So I think first and foremost, and this is how I typically advise individuals who are negotiating salary, is to first ask if the salary is negotiable, right? I think sometimes companies' hands are tied and you're working with a human resources individual who has no say in what you're paid.
Right.
So asking that question first, and you might say something differently, and it could be in the eye of the beholder, but I think that it can be respectful and show that you want to negotiate for that salary.
Sure. Just say, what is the range? What is the range?
Exactly. Identifying what that range is. So step one after identifying that range is building your case. So showing that you have value and presenting it in a way that you would present to a superior. If you're presenting a large project or presentation, build the case and make yourself the marketing product and market it.
Right.
So build that case. It's also important to know what value do you bring? So it's also important to recognize what is your wiggle room and what things can you negotiate. Is it just the salary, or can you negotiate benefits? Vision, you can look at medical benefits or dental care and really exploring all of the areas, buying a cell phone through an organizational plan. Can you negotiate a title? Can you negotiate going back to your salary, but maybe relocation reimbursement? So understanding what are all of the players in a negotiation, and if you get a roadblock on Avenue 1, can you look at the other avenues and try a different path and try to negotiate that way?
There's another path too, and that is the performance bonuses.
Yeah.
And those can be negotiated only, not with HR. They're negotiated with the person you're directly going to report to. So you can't bring it up during the initial interview, in my opinion. Bring it up with the people that you're going to work with, because they have more say than HR, frankly, in what the final offer is. If they like you, if they see a value to you, your presence in the company. But the ability to do that is, what are your expectations for me for this position? What if I exceed those expectations? How is that rewarded? These are honest, real questions that and they're hard to ask because it takes courage to ask these questions when you're looking for the second job in your career. But these are the kinds of questions that lead to more money, more advancement, that kind of thing, a faster rise in your career, is being able to address these. And you can only do that if you can demonstrate value that you can do that and exceed their expectations. Folks, we have been talking with Tabitha Bemis, who is a career counselor at Susquehanna University in Pennsylvania. Great conversation. Tabitha, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us. If you wish to speak with Fred, or you want a transcript of this interview, send an email to podcast@stuartcoopercoon.com. See you soon.